If you noticed, I used as the story for this meeting my grandfather's death certificate, where it documents his having been shot by order in Sachsenhausen. It's a brutal, awful concentration camp. And they essentially used Sachsenhausen to prepare for the gas chambers and every other possible way of killing Jews. It was all tested and prepared in Sachsenhausen. It really became a central testing ground for mass murder. Just mind-boggling. But it does indicate the date of his yahrzeit, which is the 12th of Sivan. And I thought it was appropriate to take a step back and talk about memory. I think that we need to preface our talk about memory that the world considers memory to be sort of involuntary. They talk about trauma, things that people were affected by in their life, things that happened to them. And in general, in society, even though there is some discussion about how to expand your memory, how to improve your memory, but as far as events go, as far as the ability to choose a person who grew up in a traumatic situation, for example, goes through therapy to try to deal with their memories, it is generally communicated as being something that is involuntary. In fact, there's a huge push in the Western psychological community to consider most things in our internal system to be involuntary. That would include feelings. I do love her, I don't love her. What am I supposed to do about that? There's nothing, something needs to cause me to have a feeling. Can't generate a feeling. Certainly with memories, they just exist. There's nothing that I can do about them. They have a life of their own. And so there is this predominant feeling or experience that these are things that are involuntary, which of course makes it so hard to even look at the halachos of the Torah. The Torah talks about Avas Hashem. It talks about Avas Reim. It talks about Simchas Chag. It talks about a tremendous number of halachos, lo sikom, lo sitor, where a person is expected to have a measure of, if not full control over, their feelings. And then you have this whole range of halachos that pertain to zichronot, to a person's ability to both to contain and to choose their memories. Many Sidurim make reference to Sheish Zichronot, to 6 such memories. The Rudelheim has a different list. The Eidot HaMizrach have an additional 4 items on that list. But if you look at it, it's all over the Torah. We're supposed to look at the tcheles of the tzitzis and uri'isem oso uzchartem, and it's called mitzvos Hashem. We're supposed to remember lema'an tizkiru va'asisem. Memory is a tool. Memory is a kli, is a tool for achieving what our mission of relating properly to Hashem. So if a person needs a boost to be more careful with regard to Lashon Hara, so he should call up the memory of that which Hashem did to Miriam when she spoke what would be considered a very modest or mild form of Lashon Hara about her beloved brother. Supposed to remember that we've done Averos, the Egel. We're supposed to remember that Amalek has attacked us, and to retain a certain enmity towards Amalek. We're supposed to remember that we received the Torah at Har Sinai. We're supposed to remember Yitzias Mitzrayim. We're supposed to remember that Hashem has saved Klal Yisrael. So memory is a funny part of our consciousness. And it is something where, for us to assert that we are in control of our memories, is almost to turn our back on the thrust of Western society. I mean, when you talk about being an Ivri, about Avram Avinu, who stands on one side of the river and says to the whole rest of the world, you're wrong. The gods that you're worshiping are not potent. There is only one, and he is the absolute creator of heaven and earth and the mover of everything that happens in the world. To stand and say that a person is in charge of and is capable of modifying and his feelings and his memories, I don't know how it feels for you, but for me, it feels like standing on the other side of the river to the rest of the world. There are few things that are more given in the Western society, that we are who we are. I even remember as a graduate student speaking to a professor of motivation, probably one of the world's biggest experts in motivation. And he said to me that every person has a point X at which they will, in the example that he was using, a point X where they will cheat. Meaning, if the stakes are up to a certain level, then he's going to remain honest. But if the stakes go up beyond that level, he's going to cheat. And everybody has the level X, where if the stakes go up beyond level X, then the person will cheat. And I said, everything about what I study and what I'm interested in and what I received from my teachers is all about moving level X. And he said, it can't be done. If you think it can be done, write your doctorate about it. I felt that to choose him as my graduate advisor would probably be climbing uphill, and why make mountains that you then have to climb? And so we parted ways. But the message was an unambiguous message of you can't move level X. And everything that the Torah says is spend your life moving level X. Change your grow, modify, grow, expand, become more of who you are capable of being. Get in touch with the parts of yourself that are bigger and better than the way that you know yourself right now, and you will move level X. But here is the expert in motivation who is saying with such a simplicity, such a given, you can't move level X. Level X might move through a person's experiences in life, but you can't move level X. It is simply part of your nature. It's how you're wired, and it's hardwired. And everything that we are promoting as Torah Jews is get out there and move level X. You're going to, and that requires getting in touch with more of your internal reality, so that if a person says, "What am I meant to do with a memory?" A memory just comes into my head. It wasn't invited. It comes into my head, and it starts to mess with my thoughts and with my feelings. It's disturbing. And what am I meant to do with a memory? And the answer is learn to choose your memories. Stretch yourself so that you recognize that you're in the driver's seat, which is such a foreign concept, that you're in the driver's seat and you can choose. Now you say, well, but at that moment, what am I supposed to do? And honestly, at that moment, you have to recognize the Chazal used the expression impoga b'cha menuval zeh. If the Yetzer Hara, which the Chazal referred to as the menuval, attacks you, so it gives a lines of defense. Say Kriya Shema, take him to the Beis Medrash, dress up in black as though you're going to do what he's advising, and finally remind him that we're mortal, that there's going to come a day that we'll leave this world and we'll have to answer. That expression that we're going to leave the world and we'll have to answer is supposed to be the ultimate mic drop. Like, oh, you mentioned that, and everybody comes back to their senses. Everybody recognizes, everybody has a sense of reality, and that brings everybody back to their senses. How do you factor that in a world where most children, by the time they're 10, have witnessed hundreds of thousands of deaths, most of them murders? Whether they're fictional or not makes no difference. The exposure is the same. And suddenly it's not a mic drop. It doesn't sober up the room. It doesn't sober up a person's internal mechanism to say, no, we're mortal. We don't live forever. It's like the conversation goes on. Well, there's more to say. That's supposed to be a mic drop. It's supposed to be it's the final line. So a person has to ask himself, has he gotten to the point in his development where he actually is revolted by a vile thought? So what to do in that moment is just to discover I'm not that far. I'm in the clutches of the Yetzer. I have not anchored myself in a place of good health. Somebody who had a terrible accident was sharing his experience with the Amshinover Rebbe. And this person had his hand mangled in the accident. And in his description, he said to the Amshinover that he almost died. Kimat mati. He almost died. And he saw the Amshinover involuntarily just recoil. And he thought that there was like a fly in the room or something that had gotten in his way, and that the Amshenaver hadn't heard him. So he said it again. And again, the Amshenaver recoiled at the sound of the word, dying. Almost dying. Tell me, how anchored does a person have to be in life for the sound of the word death to cause them to recoil in shock? That's where we need to be aiming. We need to be aiming to a place where the word and the words, the thoughts, the memories that are contrary to where we want to be become shocking. That's what a Jew does. He anchors himself in the thoughts, the feelings, the memories, the engagement with Hashem that he's aiming towards. Of course, it has to be authentic. If it's not authentic, it's not going to go anywhere. So it's not a question of just faking it until you make it, where you're inventing something that doesn't exist. It's connecting with parts of ourselves. Every one of us has a part of us that is deeply anchored in life, in fidelity, in loyalty, and deeply anchored there. And we can actually get to a place where the anchor is so embedded that the thought or the memory of something contrary to that will cause us to recoil. And that's what will allow us to push those memories away and to choose those memories that help us remember what we're meant to remember. You know, the Exodus from Egypt was accompanied by a Holocaust. 4/5, at least 4/5 of the Jews were in the middle of Shiva. At least. The 4/5 of the Jews died probably means that everyone was in Shiva when they left Mitzrayim. So why isn't that a sad event? And the answer is because we choose to focus on the salvation and our relationship, Hashem having chosen us and redeemed us. That's a choice. And it is that choice that goes on all the time. And it is that choice that the Western world rejects and claims that we're incapable of that. There's nothing to do about that. Thoughts, feelings, memories, they just crop up, and the person has to cope with them, learn coping skills, whatever the strategy is for dealing with them, but they are what they are. And the notion that we choose. And so when we think of, for example, of my grandfather's being killed, that thought is an available piece of raw material. It's a memory snippet. Of course, not a memory in the sense that I wasn't there. I'm named for him, as are others here. The message is, what are you going to do with that memory? So you could get angry, could get frustrated, could get overwhelmed. Sachsenhausen is certainly it's very easy to get overwhelmed by the amount of evil that saturated every fabric of Sachsenhausen. Or you could say, Hodu Lashem Ki Tov, that here we are. We're learning Torah, raising families. We're looking out at Yeshua's Hashem. We're being mitzapet to the Geula. We're looking forward to hearing word of Yeshua, of Refuos, of Nechamos. And you say, how'd you do that? The answer is, start with the small things. and make those your choices. Start with the small things and don't be a victim. Start with the small things and choose whether you want to tune into that aspect of your being, or you want to let the Yetzer tell you what aspects of your being are going to dominate. And as you make those choices, you will discover that there are parts of you that maybe you haven't emphasized. You have a song inside you, and the song inside you needs to be brought out. And when you bring out the song that is in you, then the other discord, the horrible sounds of the discord start to bother you, because you're not identifying that as being your core. Your core is a sweet song. It's a pleasant song. It's a song that you're meant to bring out into the world. It's a unique song. It's not a song that you share with everybody in the world. It's a unique song, but it is that which allows you to know that you are anchoring yourself in the memories and the thoughts and the feelings that you choose, and distancing yourself from the terrible sounds that that obstruct the beauty that is yours inside. And so that was just a little introduction to the world of memories, and the one memory that I chose to focus on, could have chosen many. Mommy was a master, Savta was a master of memory, phenomenal storehouse of memory. But our job is to figure out, what are we going to do with memories? It's not enough to just have them. We have to ask ourselves, in what way will we use them? And using a memory is a very personal experience of connecting to the part of the memory that helps us in our mission. Questions, comments, reactions? I'm going to end the recording. Anybody wants to, they can